Hey guys, welcome to my second annual Christian fiction collab video. I did a similar one at the beginning of last year, back again this year, joined by a bunch of booktubers who are going to be sharing some of their favorite Christian fiction books. I decided to deviate from last year's video just a little bit. I'm giving each booktuber a little bit more time and the option to talk about 2 books because I heard last time it wasn't enough time and people wanted to talk about more books, which is great. So I told them they could talk about any Christian fiction book that they've enjoyed over the years. They have 3-ish minutes. Some went a little over. That's okay. I will not chop them from the block. It is my hope that you will get some great Christian fiction recommendations from this video. The people that are going to be sharing like a variety of books. Some of them have similar taste to me, some of them don't, so I feel like you'll get quite the range. If you like certain people, the way they talk, their recommendations, please subscribe to their channels. That'd be very helpful for them. I will have them all linked below so you can do that. I mean, if you want to subscribe to all of them, that'd be great. But the reality is there's quite a few and you probably can't watch all the videos all the time. So pick the ones that are best for you. I know I speak for everyone when I say we would rather have people subscribing to our videos that actually want to watch them than just people subscribing for no reason. So without further ado, I will leave you to all my booktube friends. I put out a request, or I put this out on Instagram stories, my YouTube community tab, and in my newsletter. I gave people who wanted the option to be here, so there's a great selection, and I will pop back in at the end and share a couple Christian fiction recommendations for myself as well.
Hi, this is Alma, and I'm excited that Chantel put together another collaboration video with everyone's favorite books of the year, and so I am happy that she also said we could pick at least 2. So I was thinking, well, what am I gonna pick? And I decided not to pick like one that maybe a lot of people will have heard, and I decided to pick 2 that I really loved that some people may not know about necessarily. And so the first one is, I read this book this year, or last year, 2024, Bridge to Haven by Francine Rivers, and it is a chunker, but it reads really fast. It reads so fast because the story is it's really a powerful story about a young woman going through some trials in her life and having a really, really sad entrance into the world, really, and then her life and her experiences and making the choices that she makes leading her down a path that's not necessarily good for her, and how she deals with that, and then the people in her life that are praying for her, and how that all weaves together. And I really loved this book, so this was one of my favorites. And then the other Christian fiction book that I really enjoyed, a little different because it's a retelling of Cinderella, If the Boot Fits by Karen Whitmire, and it's so fun. It is such a fun book to read, and it is, like I said, set in the West, and we have like a gender swap where the gal is kind of like what the prince would be, and then the male character, you can see, he leaves his boot behind like Cinderella would. And the story is really a beautiful story, set in the Old West, but having that same fairy tale theme, and also some really good Christian principles in here as well. So I really enjoyed that. So those are my 2 books that I am recommending, Christian fiction recommendations: Bridge to Haven, Francine Rivers, and If the Boot Fits by Karen Whitmire. And again, thank you, Chantel, for putting this all together. Bye.
Hello, my name's Ashley from AshleasBookshelf, and my favorite Christian fiction book of 2024 was Clock Tower Bound by Shatona Havig. This book is in her bookstring series, but I don't think you really need to read all of them in order to read this one. It focuses on a young woman named Cezanne, who goes by Anne with an E, and she and her best friend Nadia had a falling out, and they did run a bookstore together, and Anne decides to go set up her own bookstore right next door, and the town is too small to support 2 bookstores. And so Milton steps in, but he usually is trying to save bookstores, but in this case he thinks the best thing is to try to get these 2 women to reconcile and only have 1 bookstore because it's a tiny town in Indiana, which that's my home state. And I just really love this one. I ended up reading it twice last year, gave it 5 stars both times, and it's extra special to me because it's set in my home state, and I got to take my kids to see the Gene Stratton Porter house, which that author is mentioned several times in here, and the Loblolly Marsh, which is also a scene in here, and we drove through Bern, which is where the book is set, and we got to see the clock tower, and it was a lot of fun, and I highly recommend this, especially for the fall.
Hi, my name is Jeanette, and I am from the channel JaneReads. So Chantel has asked me to talk about 1 or 2 of my favorite Christian fiction books, so I decided to highlight 2 of my favorite reads from 2024. I have a romantic suspense and a historical fiction, because those are my 2 favorite genres, and I couldn't choose just one book. So for romantic suspense, we have Secondary Target by Angela Carlisle. We are following Karina, who has recently discovered that her father has been keeping secrets from her, and somebody is after her now, so she is in a precarious situation. And then we have Bryce, who is back in town, who is her ex-boyfriend, and then his sister Allie. The 3 of them were really good friends years ago. Something happened that kind of really pulled them apart and affected their faith as well. Now they are back together, and knowing that Karina is going through some things, Bryce and Allie come and help her to try to figure out. I really enjoyed following this mystery and the suspense and the romance that developed throughout it. I also really liked that not one of these 3 characters are in law enforcement at all. That was like kind of a new take on romantic suspense, that they were willing to work with the police and not try to do things themselves. And there is faith discussion throughout the suspense that happens, and even at the end, Karina's like, wait, it was that person was the villain? Like, what? And I felt exactly the same. I had no idea who it was, and when it was revealed, I was like, wow. And this is a debut author. I was just hooked, and I cannot wait to read the next book she comes out with. Then for historical fiction, I have Walking on Hidden Rings by Rachel Scott McDaniel. This is set in the 1920s in New York State. Geneva has been in an arranged marriage because her father has arranged a marriage for her, but shortly after the wedding, her husband is killed, and Geneva wants to figure out what happened. So we are following her trying to find answers, but then there is also flashbacks to leading up to the wedding, them getting to know each other, and then shortly after the wedding happens, and I just so connected with these characters and what was going on. And every chapter left off on some sort of reveal or cliffhanger that was like, I need to know what's next. I had to keep reading. Both of these authors were new to me authors, and I cannot wait to pick up more by both of them. I would recommend either one. Give them a try.
Hi guys, I wanted to share with you guys a few of my favorite books. So one is a recent favorite, and it is Resistance by J.L. Knight. This is Christian fantasy. It's kind of in a medieval setting. We've got a kingdom, we've got opposing religion, and our main character has a secret faith in God that she's trying to live out while also not getting killed for treason. So there's a lot going on here. There's sibling dynamics. There is a character who is half human and half beast. Yeah, there's a lot in here because there's a lot of topics, and I love this book. The next one is a Christian nonfiction, and it's going to be Unoffendable by Brant Hansen. Brant Hansen is a former radio DJ. He has Asperger's, and he writes Christian nonfiction. So this one in particular is about, I guess, righteous anger and where does offense come from, and is that even biblical? So yes, here we go. I love Brant Hansen. Another one is I wanted to pick a favorite that will stand the test of time because it has stood the test of time. And that is C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters. C.S. Lewis is a Christian author. It's very, very small, but it is from the perspective of a demon in training. And so the head demon is kind of teaching this guy how to attack people, whether it's unbelievers or believers. And it talks about a lot of ways in which we are being attacked and the different avenues that Satan will use to attack us and to make sure Christians don't live in victory. And this is very, very powerful. The next favorite I want to share with you is a middle grade favorite, and that is The Princess and the Goblin by George MacDonald. This is a classic. It was written back in the day. I don't even know the year. In 1872, so this has also stood the test of time. It is a fantasy, and it follows this girl who is the daughter of the king, and she is being confined at the palace for her own safety, but she does venture out. It is middle grade and it is fun and cute, and I highly recommend the audiobook. So these are a few of my favorites that I wanted to quickly share with you here. And I also wanted to thank Chantel for letting me appear on her channel once again. This kind of video is always so fun to participate in, and so I thank you, Chantel. And I hope you guys have a lovely day. Bye!
Hello, my name is Madeline and my booktube channel is Cozy Cottage Chapters. And today I wanted to share with you one of my favorite books from the past year, and that is In This House of Breed by Rumer Godden. I absolutely adored so many things about this book. But basically it is a story of this woman who at the height of her career leaves everything behind to go become a cloistered nun. We follow her entrance into the monastery as well as how life unfolds and what daily life looks like when you are a cloistered nun. There are so many beautiful, beautiful things about this book, but one of the faith elements that I appreciated the most was the portrayal of the importance of intercessory prayer and how valuable it is to pray for other people. There are lots of points in this book where we see the nuns praying because so much of their daily life revolves around prayer, but there are some particular scenes where we see them really devoted to praying for a specific person at all hours of the day and night. We see them kind of set everything aside in their personal life, their personal struggles and things, to be devoted to praying for this person who is in desperate need of their prayers. And I thought it was just such a beautiful portrayal and an important reminder for anyone, whether you are living in a monastery or not. Ultimately, it just made me so grateful for the religious men and women who spend so much of their lives dedicated to praying for us, for the church, and I just loved this book so, so much, and honestly, I cannot wait to reread it. That is my book recommendation for you.
Hey y'all, my name is Taylor and my channel's name is Tales and Treats with Tay. And thank you so much to Chantel for putting this video together. I cannot wait to see what everybody else says. But as far as one of my favorite books of 2024, that would be Recorder by Kathy McCrum. And this is lovingly known as Sci-Fi with Heart by its fan club. So this is about Recorder, and she's one of many recorders. It's a part of humanity now in the future, where their job is to record what's happening in the world in the most unemotional, factual, true way. And in order for them to do that, they have technology embedded in their brain that suppresses emotions, basically makes them more closer towards an android sort of, or some type of machine, because they don't want the record to be tainted by human emotion. And so this is about a particular recorder who is pretty unique, but she has an accident where that technology is stripped from her and she has to face her humanity. And it's her journey of becoming human, realizing what emotions are, a fight for survival. There are a ton of side characters in this book, some of the best that I have ever read. They are found family. They have real genuine care for her, and they fight for her, and it's just really heartwarming to see. There is also romance in this book, which is perfect for me because I struggle with reading anything that doesn't have romance in it. So it really is sci-fi with heart because it focuses less on the descriptions of technology and the sci-fi-esque part of it, the science, and focuses more on, it's in the future and there's sci-fi stuff going around them, but it's more focused on the characters, and that's what I really, really love. I really rooted for the couple interest, the love interest, and yeah, you got to pick it up if you're at all interested. And if you are, definitely have book 2 on deck because this book ends in a major cliffhanger. It is part of a trilogy, so this is book 1. And all 3 books are out. They're also available in audiobook form, which I highly recommend. If you're at all an audiobook person, they're really good. So I really hope you pick it up if you're interested and enjoy it.
Hi everyone, my name is Lindsey and I run the blog Books for Christian Girls. My channel is LindseyfromBFCG and I talk about clean fiction and Christian fiction. Thank you so much to Chantel for letting me have a place to talk about more books. I'm so excited. I had 4 favorite Christian fiction books from 2024, and I know Chantel said we could do like a favorite of all time or a recent favorite. I'm going to pick 2 of my favorite books from 2024 just because I want to talk about them, and I feel like they are hidden gems that not too many people know about. My first book is Because of You by Hannah Curry, and this is a clean Christian contemporary YA book that is great for teenagers, but also for those maybe a bit outside of that target age market as well. It follows Chloe, who is a 16-year-old Australian girl going on her first mission trip to Thailand, and it was so nice to see her excitement for the trip and being able to show God's love in a big and practical way. But she learns so much during this trip, and that maybe those back home need to be reminded of God's love as well, which I loved that message. I loved her excitement. As someone who went on a student trip to China many years ago now, I really was reminded from my own trip, and it was just such a refreshing breath of fresh air because there was no romance in this book, and I admittedly do read quite a bit of sweet romance books, so it was just a really nice just change, and it's one I don't hear really anyone talking about, so I wanted to recommend this one. And my second book is The Broken Branch by Erin Mangum. If you know me, this is not a shock. I adore this author's books. If you have not read any of her books, you are missing out. I mean that with like sincere begging to please read any of her books. This one is slightly different though. It still has the super strong faith content and the very sweet romance and then the fun humor because these main girls are just something else. But this book does have a little bit more of a serious tone because our main girl is Jess, and she has recently moved back home to help her mom take care of their goat farm after her father was unexpectedly killed in a car accident. So we have all of that grieving process and just Jess wrestling with God and trusting him again after such a traumatic thing happened. But it was such a beautiful and sincere, and I hate to say, but relatable way for those who have lost a loved one and just struggled with that. It is such a beautiful relatability of the questions and keeping the faith and having our hope in the Lord even when things in this world throw us curveballs, and it was just absolutely beautiful. I sobbed reading it, I won't lie, but that's not really any shock. I love this author's books regardless. She has a new book coming out and I am so excited for that, but this one is more of a hard-hitting book, I would say, but it still has that very sweet brother's best friend romance and then the little bits of humor here and there that Erin Mangum's books are just so famous for, at least famous in my eyes for, and it was absolutely wonderful. So these would be my 2 books that I would recommend. They are little hidden gems, I think. You've probably not heard of them unless you've seen me talk about them, but I wanted to just recommend these because they were really good. I hope you check them out. Bye!
Hey, my name's Stacy. My channel name is Wandering with Stacy. Thanks so much to Chantel for putting this together. The book that I want to talk about is When the Flames Ravaged by Rhonda Dragomir. I hope I'm saying her name correctly. This was a debut novel for this author, and it was absolutely fantastic. It is historical fiction set during World War II, but it really isn't about the war. It takes place in Connecticut when the Barnum and Bailey Circus comes into town. And there is a woman named Evelyn who is a Gold Star wife, which means her husband died in the war. and she ends up going to the circus. On the day the circus actually burns down, a fire gets started in the tent. There's all kinds of chaos. People die. Horrible things happen. This book is depressing. I cried a lot in this book, but it is very full of faith. And the main character had lots of questions of faith that I personally related to. I just think that the author handled that sort of thing, that topic, very well. I learned a lot, which is one of my favorite things about historical fiction. The characters were outstanding. I loved everyone. They were very well fleshed out, and the faith was super high in this. I wish I had read this book years ago when I was going through something tragic. I feel like this book would have helped me a lot to understand my thoughts on God and faith and His love and all of that. So yeah, that was my favorite Christian fiction book from 2024. I hope you read it and I hope you love it.
Hello everyone, my name is Molly McTernan and I am so excited and grateful that I get to be making this video for you today. Now, in 2024, I read so many good books and there were multiple 5-star reads. But when I looked back over the year to try to decide a favorite, one title came to mind above all the rest, and that is A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure by Angela Bell. This book is so good. It is full of whimsy, a little bit of mystery, so many hilarious family moments, beautiful faith elements, and I will also say the characters in this book were done so well. The relationships and arcs that the characters went on was just phenomenal, and I think I related to the main character in this book more than I ever have any book before. So if you are in the mood for a light-hearted but historical book with very deep themes and beautiful quotes all throughout, I would highly recommend A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure. I have recommended this book to so many people and plan to continue to do so. I also hope to reread it soon because it's just that good. So yes, my top read of 2024 was A Lady's Guide to Marvels and Misadventure.
Hey everyone, I'm Katie from Paperbacks and Ponytails, and I want to share with you 2 books that are in my top favorites. So first off is Love Overboard by Shannon Sue Dunlap. This is the first book in a series that is about these older women. It has kind of that Golden Girls feel meets The Love Boat. This is the perfect book for a vacation or if you just want to get away from the winter blahs. But this book is just so funny, so sweet. We're following 4 older ladies who live on a cruise ship, and they are the shippers, which means they matchmake as they kind of live on the ship. Well, there's matchmaking ensues with their ship crew members, and then we have a little bit of a mystery going on where the older people kind of get entangled in that as well. But it's just a great time. It's a nice, easy read to fit in between the harder reads that you may have throughout the year, but this is just the perfect rom-com. Then I have Coal Black Lies by Cindy K. Sproul's. We're going to go on the opposite side of the spectrum here. This is a hard-hitting historical fiction. This is about a man who is on the verge of suicide, and he is deep in depression. I will say that. It's on page 1. Skip it if you want to. After that, it's an amazing book. Nothing else happens after that. It's amazing. But he discovers something where his daughter was killed by the family who lives in town, who kind of took over the town, took over the coal mine, and they're a pretty bad bunch of people. And so later, when he's about to have that happen, he discovers a little girl lost in the woods. And he's like, okay, is this a ghost? Is this my daughter? What's going on? So he goes to her, and it's a little girl who has Down syndrome, and they didn't know what that was back then, but he decides to take her home to his wife and trying to figure out where she came from. You know, who's her family? Why is she lost in the middle of nowhere? And just, it's a beautiful story, beautifully written. The characters will just entwine themselves around your heart and will just never let go. I love these characters. All of Cindy K. Sproul's characters are absolutely amazing. So if you want a tearjerker or if you want a grand old time, pick up one of these books. You will not be sorry.
Hi, it's Lou from Christian Faith and Fiction. My favourite book series, or 2 books from the book series that I loved last year was the Imposters series by Rosanna M. White. So we have A Beautiful Disguise is book 1 and book 2, A Noble Scheme. Both of these books were 5-star reads for me. They are Christian historical fiction. They are a mix of mystery and suspense and romance equally mixed together. And she does a fantastic job of mixing different subplots into the story as well as character development as well. So they were really fantastic. The Imposters is a private investigating society, and it's set up by a brother and sister who fell into hard times financially, and so they needed to make some money, and so they set up this private investigating firm. They are part of the aristocracy and nobody knows their alter egos. In the first book we are following Lady Marigold, who has a very flamboyant personality when she's in society, sort of drawing attention away from her true person, and she is working alongside her brother to investigate a mystery. The second one is following her companion, who is Gemma Parks, who is a columnist for a newspaper, so she's writing a society column, but she is also working for the Imposters, and this one was my favourite book of the year altogether because it wove together different themes of the romance, the mystery, character development, as well as spiritual development. Her and another guy who works for the Imposters, they have a past, which means that they are enemies. As the book goes on, we see why that has come to be and whether they can ever get over that. I don't want to say too much. There is some heavy topics involved. That's all I will say, involving grief and the storyline. A couple of the plot lines involves children, so that's as much as I want to say without spoiling that. But there's a kidnapped child in the mystery element to this book, and I absolutely loved the faith elements in this. There was some sort of allegorical part to it, and yeah, loved the characters, loved the romance, loved how she weaves all of these things together into a very satisfying book. I didn't get bored at any point, and the ending wrapped up really well. So I definitely recommend this series, particularly these first 2 books from this series, if you like historical fiction and you like mystery and suspense as well as romance.
Hey everyone, my name's Caitlin, and today I am here to gush about a couple of my very favorite Christian romances. First up, we have an oldie but a goodie, The Secret Life of Sarah Hollenbeck by Bethany Turner. This is a Christian rom-com about a woman who is a steamy romance writer who ends up giving her life to Christ and then promptly falling in love with her pastor. This book is hilarious. The romance is so swoon-worthy, but there's tons of real talk in here about honoring God in your romantic relationships, the importance of realistic, clean and closed-door romance reads, and the fact that a romance can be hot without being explicit. And it's such a fantastic read. I love it so much and most highly recommend it. Next up, we have The Mistletoe Countess by Pepper Basham. This is one of my all-time favorite Pepper Basham books. It is just so joyful and fun and just a delight. It's a joy to read. It truly is. Yes, I know it's a Christmas book, but the Christmas element is very, very light. You can totally read it any time of year. I actually first read it in June, and it totally works. This is a marriage of convenience historical romance about a woman named Grace and a man named Frederick, who is a earl from England. She's from America, and so it's a marriage of convenience story, and it's so fun. Grace is just so delightful, hilarious. She's incredibly bookish, so she's very relatable. And I love the way she thinks. I love the things that she says. I love how she's like very innocent and almost naive, but she's not naive. She's also very smart and very wise to the ways of the world. And I love that. I love the combination of her character and all the different parts of who she is. She's just a delight. There's also a romance in this book that is incredible. There are a couple of fade to black scenes as they are married. It wasn't too much for me, but something to be aware of that some readers may not be for some readers. But yeah, there's also a mystery in this book that they have to solve, and it's just such a great time. So I highly recommend that you check it out any time of year.
Hey y'all, my name's Amanda from the channel BookLoverAmanda. I read a lot of Christian fiction and clean books, and I'm super excited to share some of my recent favorites of 2024 with you guys. Thank you so much, Chantel, for asking me to participate in this collaboration video. First, my favorite book of the year for 2024 was Tessa Afshar's Land of Silence. This is a biblical fiction all about the woman of the issue with blood, the one who bled for 12 years in the Bible. Tessa Afshar did such a great job with taking those couple of sentences of scripture from the Bible and turning it into a full fictionalized story of what this woman's life could have been like. We see her struggles, her journey to the Lord, and everything that she went through trying to be healed, ultimately leading up to the moment with Jesus. And it was just a beautiful moment. I cried. It was a phenomenal biblical fiction story. Highly recommend. Another one of my favorite books that I read in 2024 is Hope Like Wildflowers by Pepper Basham. This is actually book 3 in her My Heart Belongs series. So I want to mention all 3 of these books actually. The first book is Laurel's Dream. The second book is The Heart of the Mountains. And of course, book 3 is Hope Like Wildflowers. This series is one of my favorite series of all time. It is beautiful Christian historical romance stories that are set in the Appalachian Mountains. Characters are well developed. They are going through a lot of hard times. You see just how good the Lord is throughout these stories, set in the early 1900s in the Blue Ridge Mountains, and it's just a beautiful series. The first book is all about Laurel McAdams and Jonathan Taylor. Laurel wants to be a teacher. That is her dream. She is working towards that dream when she meets Jonathan Taylor. He has failed his British father by not being able to continue in the Great War. Jonathan joins his uncle's endeavors in a schoolroom in the Appalachian Mountains, and he meets Laurel, and he's not really welcomed there, but him and Laurel become great friends, and a romance ensues. It is a beautiful story. And then in book 2, we follow Cora Taylor, which is Jonathan's sister, and Jed McAdams, which is Laurel's brother, and their romance. And it is again a continuation from this story. Cora travels in search of her brother to the mountains and meets Jeb, and it helps to find her place in nursing to help with her skills. Jeb has returned from the war recently, and we see him and Cora just build this beautiful friendship that blooms into a romance. And of course, we have the third book, which is Hope Like Wildflowers, and this was my favorite of the 3. This is all about Kizzy McAdams, who is the secret sister, I will say, of the entire series. Since the very beginning of this series, you know that you need to know Kizzy's story because her father kicked Kizzy out of the home. Her siblings haven't seen her in years. She is pregnant, and from the very beginning of the story, you know she's pregnant. You see that she experiences kindness from a local family who helps her get on her feet. She has her child, and she has this romance with this man at the very beginning of the story. He's not a very good guy. You think they're going to get married, but he continues to just push her off, and she finally stands up for herself, and you see her story and her journey throughout this book. It's the unexpected friendship and romance from a businessman that comes her way named Noah, and it's just such a beautiful redemption story in the Lord. Highly recommend it. This whole series was just wonderful. You are not going to regret reading it because it is truly a great Christian historical romance series. So yeah, these are just some of the books I wanted to recommend for this collaboration video. I have so many more recommendations on my channel. I thank you so much, Chantel, for asking me to join this collaboration, and I hope you find a book that you'll enjoy.
Hello friends, my name is Oshina. I'm from the channel Oshina Gotta Read 'Em All, and thank you to Chantel for putting together this video again. I really enjoyed doing it last year, and I'm here again this year to share about 2 of my favorite Christian fiction books from last year. It was really hard to pick just one last year, so this year I'm choosing 2, and thank you, Chantel, for allowing me to do that. So first of all, my first recommendation is Unknown Threat by Lynn H. Blackburn. This is the first book in a trilogy, and it is a romantic suspense book. What I loved most about this is the romance. If you know my channel, I do prefer to read romance, so any book that has it in it, I like it. So this book in particular, the character dynamics were so top quality that I didn't even care what the mystery was. I just wanted to see these characters interact, and it was just so entertaining for that. In this one, the FBI and the Secret Service have to work together because there is a guy going around killing some Secret Service agents, and so the FBI gets involved to try to help solve the case, and it is a romance between the FBI agent and the Secret Service agent, and it's so cute, but it's also like really interesting. I liked seeing the dynamics between FBI and Secret Service. I don't know much about it because I'm in Canada, but it was still like entertaining, and I just love this series. I love the writing style of this author. Highly recommend anything by this author. She is so good. But then I also want to recommend a whole trilogy. So it is the Muir Harbor novel trilogy. Here, whatever it is. But these are the 3 books. It starts with Autumn by the Sea. And this one in particular, it's so good because there's like kind of a mystery involved in all 3 of the books. There's also, again, such good character dynamics that I'm just like amazed by the interactions, and I just love watching how relationships form and what impacts different characters and how they react and just all the things. I just find it so fascinating. On top of that, the romance is so good. So you do follow a family, you're introduced to them in this first book, and then you follow a different sibling in the sequential books. And Wedding at Sea is my favorite in the whole trilogy, but all 3 are 5 stars. Highly recommend this trilogy. It's great Christian romance. It is set in like a contemporary setting, modern times. And I just think that if you like a little bit of mystery, really great romance, found family, you will like this trilogy. It's so good. So highly recommend both of these books. I know this is a whole trilogy. I'm kind of cheating, but hey, I can't just recommend one book. Like, there's so many good ones. I hope you check them out.
Hey guys, my name is Christy, and I had a really hard time choosing just one favorite Christian fiction book of last year, so I decided to choose 2. And the first one is In This Moment by Gabrielle Meyer. This book is part of the Timeless series that so many people have heard about. This is actually the 2nd book in the series. So if you haven't read the first one, which is called When the Day Comes, I definitely recommend checking that one out first. But I got to read this book around 4th of July this year, and it was really amazing because it's such a patriotic book, and it follows the main character Maggie, who wakes up every day in a different time period. 1861, around the time of the Civil War, 1941, around the time of World War II, and 2001. And these were all really crucial times in American history. So I really connected with it in such a great way around that time of year. But what made this book so amazing is that the premise of this story is just so gripping, because at the age of 21, she has to choose which time period she's going to live in permanently. And she has people that she loves in each time period that it's like, how could she possibly give them up? How could she possibly choose? And there's just so much drama and intrigue, and you get to learn about history. It's so fun, and it is a true page turner. So I just loved it. The next one is called Stay With Me by Becky Wade. This is a contemporary romance following a girl named Genevieve, who is a very famous Bible study leader. And it turns out she's really hiding a lot of things about her past that could be potentially damaging to her career. So she ends up renting a property on this farm that belongs to a young gentleman, and he actually has a lot of really similar things in his past, so they kind of connect over that. They really help each other get through a lot of things, and I'm just really skimming the top of it. There's a lot more in that, because what makes this book so amazing is the depth that Becky Wade goes into with her characters and the story, just the thoughts and things that they're feeling, all of their emotions, what got them to the point they're at, where they are in the story, where it picks up. And she continues on with that depth and emotion as the story progresses. The romance is just beautiful. It's incredibly swoony. And on top of that, there is a great mystery element to this story. And even better, the faith content is just phenomenal. It's a real story of redemption and forgiveness, and it was just amazing. I loved it.
Hi everyone, I'm Celestria from the channel of the same name, and I have 2 books to recommend today that are favorites. The first one is The Lost Melody by Joanna Davidson Politano. Now technically this is book 2 in a duology. It has some spoilers for book 1, A Midnight Dance, but it definitely can be read as a standalone. Now this is historical romance, and it's about a woman named Vivian who is a pianist, and after her father passes away, he leaves to her the care of a patient in Hurstwell Asylum. And this patient seems weirdly familiar to Vivian, so she calls the asylum asylum to inquire about the patient, but the asylum claims that they have no idea who the woman is and never heard of her. Vivian needs answers, so she goes to the asylum to find them, but once she's there, she's not able to leave. I absolutely love the eerie vibes of the whole asylum setting. I love the mystery. I enjoyed the romance. I love the musical theme. I love this author's writing style. I know the whole asylum theme and some of the things that happen there could get a little too dark for some readers, but I really love the faith content and the whole thing about bringing hope and the light of God's love to people in dark places. I thought it was great. And then I don't think it would be right of me to not recommend the Ilion Chronicles by J.L. Knight. This is book 1, Resistance, and this is a new adult, non-magical fantasy series. It has a great cast of characters, but the two main characters are Chiron and Jace. Jace is a young man who is a slave. He is half Ryric, and Ryrics are a race of people that all of society looks on with fear and disdain. He has a very tragic past, and he's haunted by memories that he can't escape. Chiron is a young woman who's called into service to the Emperor, and that's very scary and dangerous for her because she's a follower of Elome, who is the one true God. But the Emperor has made following and worshipping Elome illegal. Following the Emperor's declaration to enforce the worship of false gods under penalty of death, many lives are endangered, but there are those willing to risk everything to take a stand and offer aid to the persecuted. With their lives traveling paths they never could have imagined, Jace and Chiron must fight to overcome their own fears and conflicts with society as they become part of the resistance. So yes, two of my favorites. Highly recommend. Please read them.
Hello everyone, my name is Charlene and my channel is Coffee and a Book, and I'm going to be sharing with you two of my all-time favorite Christian fiction books. So the first one is Counted with the Stars by Connellan Cosette. This is the first book in the Out from Egypt trilogy, and it follows a young girl named Kia, who is an Egyptian slave. Through her eyes, we get to see the plagues of Egypt, because the series takes place from the time of Exodus to the time of Joshua. Kind of how that looked for someone who didn't know what was happening, didn't necessarily know why it was happening to begin with. And then we get to see her and other Israelites traveling in the wilderness after they leave Egypt. What that looked like, how the people viewed their time in the wilderness, and all of that. And I really enjoyed this book because it gave a real eyewitness view of what this might have looked like, because it's really easy to read the Bible and say, why didn't you just listen to God? But this shows how easy it was for the people to be led astray by their frustrations, their complaints, by the complaints of those around them. And so I really enjoyed this book for the historical aspect, though there is also a really good slow burn romance story in all of the books as well. Then the second book is in a very different vein, and that is Rooms by James L. Rubart. This one is a contemporary book, but it is very much a spiritual warfare book. So in this one, we have Micah, who is a software tycoon. He has started up his own company in Washington State, and he's doing very well, but then he receives a mysterious letter from his great uncle that he never met that was supposedly written 15 years ago, and tells him that there is a house that has been built for him, and he just has to go down to Oregon and claim it. He doesn't want anything to do with this house. He doesn't want to go back to this area that he grew up in or spent time in, and he just wants to go look at the place, get it appraised, get it sold, and move on with his life. However, once he goes down there, things in his life back home start looking very strange. And not just he's spending too much time in Oregon, people are starting to move on without him, or his company is anyway, but things are starting to act as though he was never involved. He was never there. I had no idea what I was getting into this book when I picked it up. I knew it said his life back home was going to look different, but I didn't expect the supernatural twist that came with this book. But I ended up really enjoying it. So if you have an interest in biblical fiction or in spiritual warfare, I would recommend either one of these books.
Hi guys, my name is Ktree. I run the channel booknerdktree, and I'm actually very new to the Christian fiction genre. I just discovered and started dipping my toes in this past year in 2024, but I definitely did have a favorite that I really wanted to share and talk about. I'm a big romance reader, so I found a Christian contemporary romance that I really enjoyed, and that is Love and Other Goals by Tracy Bach. This was her debut novel last year, and it was so good. I was so surprised and blown away, and it is Christian, so there's lots of faith elements, but it's not like overly in your face. It's just so natural, kind of like how I feel it is just in our daily lives, and I really love that aspect. The romance was so sweet. This is a college soccer romance. I adored it. Such great communication. I feel like it's a really good viewpoint of like how you should be striving to like be in a relationship and communicate properly and stuff like that, and not just date to date type of thing. It's very intentional, very sweet. I absolutely adored it. So if you're looking for a Christian contemporary romance, and I would even say that teen girls can read this, it's very clean. Very clean. So yeah, your daughter, teen daughter, or you guys want to read it together, whatever, I think you guys would really love and enjoy this, and I hope you do check it out.
Okay, I hope you guys have been enjoying all those recommendations. I'm going to share two that I read in the last year-ish that I've really enjoyed, and they're both kind of in the little bit more mystery suspense genre. I have not read a ton of Christian fiction in the last year. I kind of have, if you count fantasy, which it can be a little iffy, just because like what is Christian fiction and fantasy? It's a harder line. But the first book I want to talk about is What Happens Next by Christina Suzanne Nelson. I read this I think just over a year ago now, and I'm kind of kicking myself that I have not continued with any of her other books. But this one, we follow a woman who has this true crime podcast show, and at the beginning of the book she finds out that a girl that she was friends with in like one summer of childhood actually went missing right after that summer, and she's spending time trying to solve what happened to her. There were some twists in this book that I really appreciated. There were some things I was worried that were going to happen. It just kept me on the edge of my seat. I just want to say that. I don't want to give any spoilers. There were some really good faith elements. The girl who went missing, her parents both handled that very differently. Very good conversations going on there. Really appreciated it. Totally intend to read more by Christina Suzanne Nelson as soon as I can. The other book that I want to say is actually a trilogy, so I'm kind of cheating, but oh well. And it's the FBI Strange Crimes Unit series. I have read these from, I think I started in like August, September, and finished it up in January. There's 3 books, and they all follow one member of the Strange Crimes Unit who they solve strange crimes. So there's like, some of them have some cult vibes, which I'm always interested in. Oh, this is by Jessica R. Patch, and her books have really great faith elements. We've got characters that are wondering about Christianity, some that are a little bit older to the faith. There's like some really great conversations with why does God let bad things happen because of their line of work. These books are not necessarily for the faint of heart. They are pretty gruesome. They're strange crimes, and I feel like she does a really good job not being like overly descriptive, but I do think that they might be a little bit much for some people, so I want to throw that out there. But I loved books 1, 2, and 3. And now just want to read all of the Jessica R. Patch, and have since read a couple others. Definitely recommend checking her out if you like more like mystery thriller type books. Especially coming up, she's got some thriller releases that I'm super excited to read. So those will be my 2 recommendations. Thanks again for checking out this video. Definitely go subscribe to the booktubers that intrigued you, whose books they were talking about that intrigued you. And thanks for watching this, and hopefully I will do this again next year.